listening to Freetalk with MrB.
Hello, and welcome. This is MrB on Freetalk with MrB. Our guest today is really trying to highlight about not giving pearls to swine. He wants us to be careful about what we give away, because not everyone appreciates what they get. So he's focusing on himself, focusing on family, and that's okay. Let's hear from him. This is Freetalk with MrB. Hello.
So how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Pretty good, can't complain.
For sure. Where are you located right now?
Right now I'm in Delaware.
In Delaware?
Yeah.
Okay, that's approximately how close to New York is that? I keep telling everyone you're East Coast New York.
I am on the East Coast, and we are actually about 2 hours from New York south.
Okay.
Yeah, so not too far.
Right. And
My nearest major city is probably Philadelphia.
I see. I can't remember where you were born.
Trinidad, Port of Spain.
I mean, in the Port of Spain, the northern part of Trinidad and Tobago, right?
Yeah.
I've been so distant from where everyone else is, and whoa, that's a big transition. Is the city Philadelphia? Is that where you first landed when you went to the U.S.?
No, well, when I came to the U.S., I went straight to Long Island, New York. And I lived there probably till about 2000. I think around December 2000 we moved to Delaware.
I see.
And been here ever since. I think I had about roughly a 6-7 month stint that I was in Pittsburgh for. I had moved out there to work, but I couldn't get rid of my house in Delaware at the time, so I ended up coming back.
I see. What kind of work do you do?
Well, at that time I was working for a steel company.
Okay, cool. That's nice.
Doing maintenance on furnaces, like arc flash furnaces. So,
okay.
large, hot, and dangerous.
You know, the only steel company in my background is called Bethlehem Steel, and they were in the shipyards.
Bethlehem Steel is very prominent steel company in my area.
Oh, I see.
They were in this region. They were like a major player at one point in time. The steel company I worked for at that point in time was called AK Steel. They're one of they're a fairly large steel manufacturer in the U.S. and around the world too. But before that, I worked for Everett Steel, which is at the time they were owned by Roman Abramovich. If you know, you're familiar with him, Russian guy.
All right, very cool. And I guess it's a big time difference there, because I'm talking about in the very early 1980s, and you're talking about a different era.
Yeah, well, I think over the years, the steel industry has changed. Some of the names and companies have changed over the years, naturally. But if you got a chance to work when I got into the industry, there were still some relics, or for lack of a better term, people who were around in the early era probably when you were around it.
Okay.
And, they're still there.
Right. What for lack of me not knowing, what is the job function that you do?
Well, back then, what I did for them was I started off, when I got into the industry, I started off as a maintenance mechanic. And my second stint in the steel industry, I went as a maintenance supervisor on in the furnace. So at first, when I first got in, I was manufacturing custom steel for U.S. infrastructure. So like your highways, your bridges, and so forth. Steel that was needed for that. But with the economy taking a turn around 2008, that industry took a hit. And the plant I was with, they closed. But
Okay.
so I went for a little while, searching around, hunting jobs, traveling across the country, mostly on the East Coast, trying to find work. And when I did land a job, it was in Pittsburgh, which is big time steel town, you know.
Right.
And I ended up working in an area called Butler, Pennsylvania, for AK Steel. And there we were manufacturing non-magnetic stainless steel, things you use for like your transformers and so forth.
Okay.
And other industries too. I mean, we had a lot of customers, but we did a variety of steel at that particular plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the gist of the podcast is my goal was to let people know what other people do, and maybe their experiences could help motivate another person. Think of a job, think of a career, think of a solution to any of the problems they may have, and so on. Because our listeners are so diverse and so global, there are different things that people can do. So your sharing can be insightful for them. What about family, kids?
I have 3 kids of my own.
Okay.
My youngest is my boy, Mariano. He's what? He just turned 8 not too long ago. And my middle daughter, she's 11, and my oldest is 13. And it's nice having them. I enjoy them. I'll tell you what, when you spend years doing the type of work that I've done in industrial work,
Yeah.
eventually you're gonna have to look at your life and kind of assess what are you working for and who you're working for. You know, we just in work we oftentimes hear people say, know your customer. You
Yes.
know, and who's your customer? Who are you supplying? But when it comes down to it, as a family man, your first customer is your family.
Right. And
That's the best advice I can give anybody when it comes to how you view your work for your family.
right. Well, I mean, we have that in business itself, where we have inside of our company, we have internal customers, and outside of the company, we have external customers. So you're relating it kind of like to the home, where everyone inside the house is your internal customers. Everything else outside is in its place. Oh, that's good. That's good.
You see, and reason why I say like that is because in the work world today, we're oftentimes forced to make a decision. You know, which am I going to put first? And you hear companies use the terminology work-life balance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I've been faced with that situation and circumstance multiple times throughout my career, where I have to make that choice. Am I working to work, or am I working for my family? Because you choose a job or you choose a career, usually that's based upon what you want to provide for yourself. You know, the quality of life, the type of life, what you want to do, how many kids you want to have. But if you go to work and you become so consumed by the job, you can always have a problem where work either overpowers or snatches you away from what you came to work for. So I like to keep that in the forefront of my mind when I choose a job. And, you know, like in the past few years, I've done a lot of contract work for different companies. I mean, from anybody from Amazon to other companies that manufacture different manufacturing fields. And I always have to consider that when choosing a contract or choosing a job or something that I want to get into.
Right. Like what you're saying is the true meaning of work-life balance.
Yeah.
Very good. What about SIP? Go ahead.
But well, I was going to say one eye opener for me was one day. I think I had gone a stretch where I worked almost like I was doing a major project, and I had like a 20-something hour day, and in that week I think I had pulled almost 90 hours of work. And you know, being a supervisor, you kind of like locked in until the project's done, you know.
Right.
And when I got home, my son said to me, and he was way younger then. He says to me, "Daddy, I didn't even know you still were here." You know, he had no clue that I was coming and going. You know,
Right.
I had to kind of like stop and say, you know, am I doing too much? And what am I doing it for? But
Yeah. So he was like
that's
saying,
all. I keep that in the back of my mind.
okay, so he was like saying, "Mommy, there's a stranger at the door."
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very
Yeah, but
interesting.
you were gonna ask me about family?
No, because I mean, but no, without losing this point, it's like life lessons come right at you. Either you learn it on the outside, or you learn it from, you know, like they say, out of the mouth of babes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much so. Very much.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. So again, you're balancing out family and so on. You have external family around near you, or?
I do, and I think in the past I had more interaction with relatives.
Okay, we call
because
it, right.
I did a lot over the years, caring for and helping and assisting, you know. And culturally, I think we're oftentimes bred to have this communal viewpoint of family, and that, you know, the extended family unit is something that we saw growing up,
Right.
and we oftentimes try to be our brother's keeper or our sister's keeper, you know. And I think as you grow and you become a different person, as becoming a family head and a husband especially, you have to really kind of fine tune what that defines as and what your need is, because if you're not careful, that too could sneak in,
Yeah.
you know, and disrupt your actual nucleus, you know, your wife and your kids. So
Right.
I know in looking at it in hindsight, I think I would not say be as generous as I was in the past, but these days I'm cautious as to how I help and how my helping affects others, especially in my household, my
Right,
wife and kids.
right.
I'm
it's
selective in what I do.
And it's a good point, because I've told someone there's a principle that the whole world uses is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so we tend to focus on the love the neighbor part, like extended family members, relatives. And we forget about the love yourself part. So to love your neighbor as yourself, it requires, what's your opinion on that anyway?
Well, somebody once told me this. I believe in loving neighbors. I'm naturally, by nature, I'm a very empathic person. I believe in caring for the other man, especially if you're kin or kin to me, or in some way or form. I want to actually help you and see you succeed. That's just me. You know, my personality is like that. But the problem in that is that if I'm not careful, I can do too much and put myself at risk.
Right.
So that helping neighbor as self, I have to constantly remind myself that myself is my wife and kids. In that I'm supposed to love my wife as my own body, and my kids came from me. So if I'm not caring for them and making them my paramount priority, I risk endangering myself. So the last thing you want to hear is your wife come to you and say, I don't think you put me first.
Right.
Or I don't think that you put us first as a family. Instead, you put your mother or your sister, your brother, or even your cousins and friends. I mean, you want to help people as best as you can, but I think it comes to a point where you're helping somebody else could also be a hindrance to them. In that, if people don't learn to do it for themselves, they never learn.
Right.
If you do it for them every time, so you have to back up and let them do it, and secure your household. It's like the advice when you get on a plane, you know, put your air mask on first before you help others.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You got to do that literally when it comes to dealing with people. If it is within your power, hey, go right ahead. But if it's not, something that is conducive to your unit, you want to hold up and just be real with yourself. Somebody told me I wasn't modest at one point in time. I got counsel from senior men in my environment as not being modest because of how I help people. And at first it was a bit of a slap in the face for me, being that, based on the principles that we're raised to hold dear, that whole love thy neighbor.
Right.
But I had to stop and acknowledge it, that I was actually not being modest in the way I figured I could help everybody and do for everybody and change everybody's life. You can't. That's a fallacy.
Yeah, just coming to that realization when you can't makes you a better person, because maybe you can help. Again, another one of the things we're doing here is the podcast is giving back, and we know conventional wisdom say we tend to give back resources or other sources of information, and I was hoping that we would do something like that here, to give back by giving our not only the conventional wisdom, but our experience wisdom, the cumulative experience wisdom. And so that's a way to give back. And it's kind of a form of modesty without, or by recognizing that's all we have to give back, our experiences. So pretty cool. Pretty cool.
My wife showed me a point recently. We were having a conversation about this topic of giving to people. And she said, a lot of times people come to you with an idea or a need, more so, and you want to help them, or you want to guide them in some way. She said we have to stop thinking that the physical assistance is important,
right? And
start looking at the principles that we can pass on. Because you want to tell people, oh, do this, do that, take this step and that, make that effort, and they don't really get it. But if you look at the principles at what governs the situation and help them to see how to use that, they benefit more, because now they learn how to live. Because remember, all laws is based off of a principle anyway.
Right.
So if they follow the guidelines of that principle and make it their own, 9 out of 10 times their choices in the future that put them in X or Y situation is going to be different. Because they have something of substance to go off of.
Right. No, I appreciate what you're saying. Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, because it someone in our audience could pick it up and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. And from a lot of angles. I know there's examples, I've seen it in some movies and other things too, that the gift someone gave someone was not the best thing the person needed. Because, for example, you give someone a car and back away, maybe you gave them the car and you had just paid the down payment. Now they're forced to make the rest of the payments. They need to buy insurance, they need to buy fuel, they need to maintain it, get in license and insurance. So you gave them almost like what's the word? You gave them
that double-edged sword.
Yeah, you gave them something that makes them happy at the moment, and then wait a minute, Or I know another person, they came off of a game show and they won a car, and they had to come up with the money to pay the taxes for the car. It's like, wait a minute. So all these type of things some gifts are not, it's not helping the person, but giving them some amount of wisdom might help, and sharing your experience with them might be the more appropriate thing to give. I agree with that.
I think my brother said this morning in the conversation that we were talking about some of these situations we've seen in the U.S. with the political climate and all the deaths and whatnot. And there was a case. One of the cases that's prominent in the media right now is I think the victim was awarded a $12 million reward or settlement for the issues that happened. And my brother said, is the 12 million worth it, or should they have taken the punish? Should the person have been punished for their actions? So it's like, what do you really want as a society or as an individual? So like, if it's your family or your kin who has been wronged, and now you're being awarded by the court $12 million. Is that going to really suffice? Is that going to do it for you, or is that going to now cause you problems in the future? Because now you never had $12 million in hand, and now you have $12 million. Are you going to squander it, send yourself into poverty? It's a lot of different problems that could arise from that instantaneous handout.
Well, I tell you, a lot of people that are listening to us would agree that it would be really nice to have the 12 million. But you have to be balanced with that.
My hand isn't made out of glass, but at the same time, it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
Because, like, he even made the point, if you look at a lot of the lottery winners, historically, they've not done well with the money.
Right.
More problems than anything. Like I said to him, part of the issue of that is that we're taught to expect to win something, but we're never taught how to handle it when we get it. So, and same with giving advice. You could give help and give advice to people that don't know what to do with it.
That is true.
Their lifestyle just isn't conducive. I remember in the early years of me being married. Now, amongst my siblings, we kind of all got married around the same time. So we've been in the game together, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Right.
And the thing is, I remember in the early days giving advice to even my brother and my sisters, like, do this, do that. Try and look for this type of housing and invest in property and, look for this type of work. And no matter how much I said certain things to people back then, it did not take. It wasn't that it was bad advice or wrong, but you mentally, you have to have that mental capacity to take what is being given to you and do something with it. It's like I had people who gave me gems, as to put it, in advice, and I applied it, and right away I saw results. And I gave that same gem to others, and they couldn't do anything with it.
Okay, so I could highlight it. So the lesson is.
Go ahead.
I was hoping that you would tell me the lesson is, like, how would we sum up that lesson?
Okay. Well, that lesson is this: you as an individual have to be ready to receive the help. One, right? And when you get something, don't take what you get and just throw it at swines. It's like throwing pearls for swine.
That is correct.
Because not everybody can appreciate what you have at that time. The things you're going through and the experiences you gain and the blessings or benefits that come to you, they might be indicative of your life and your experience. So when you give that advice to people, stop and look at where they are. Really, stop and look at it, because they really and truly may not be able to receive it.
Right. And that is the lesson. We have to be careful not to throw our pearls before swine, as it's allegorically stated. And if not, if you've taken the time to show someone how to use the gift, or how to benefit from the gift, it would have been better if they didn't even get the gift in the first place. It's very encouraging, very, very encouraging. So, I really like talking to you, and I would like you to come on again sometimes. You can pick a topic that people might be very interested in and go over that. It go in depth, because you have a broad spectrum from a working life, interaction with people, how money is managed, and so on, and how relationships, and that's what we want in this podcast, to be able to help one another, encourage one another, because the problems come up around the world exactly the same. And so I'm looking to keep perpetuating this talk in this podcast. Let it be a show that helps other people. And so definitely we'll talk, and we'll invite you on again, and you pick a subject you wanted to cover, something that's passionate towards you and that can help people around the world. Oh
yeah, anytime, man. Hey, it was a pleasure being able to talk to you, too. We don't get to talk enough. But you know, if we can get together and talk like this, I'm always up for it, man.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm just finding my niche, because I know I like to talk, but I wanted to make it useful.
And I'm always willing to help. I mean, I do for my friends. I keep my circle tight, but any friend of mine knows that when it comes to advice and assistance in life, I'm always willing to help somebody grow. I'm there for you. I've lost too many good people over the years by not showing genuine interest, you know.
Okay.
So I try to really be there for people. If I say I'm gonna do it, you bet I'm gonna do it.
And you're sort of a food connoisseur also, so I'm hoping you'll come on and tell us about some of those specialty dishes. People around the world might want to get some details on your dishes.
Well, I love that, and you know that is my passion. I mean, all the work that I do could stress me out on a daily, and I still come home and get in that kitchen.
Right.
Once my knife is in my hand and my pot's on bubble, I can make myself happy. You know, that's my source of joy.
Very good.
I love to talk about food.
We have a lot of room on this program for all sorts of subjects, including food and sometimes music and whatever is the passion of the people, because there's a lesson in every meal that we prepare. So I look forward to talking to you about that and other subjects too when you come back on.
Definitely.
Thank you. So look forward to that.
Well, look, it was a pleasure.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
You all be safe, and I hope your audience benefits from everything we spoke of.
I'm sure they will. Again, because it's on-demand podcast, they can fill their palates at their speed, at their discretion around the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
Talk
Look
again.
forward to hearing it.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Free Talk with MrB. Please remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode.